Jim Dodson. I'm a bicycle injury lawyer. My primary office is in Clearwater, but we represent clients throughout Florida. Uh, the issue of dooring is one that is very problematic for us because of the magnitude of the injuries that occur when someone comes in contact on their bicycle with a car door that's been thrown open into their path suddenly. Can you imagine the physics involved of a bicyclist traveling even at 10 miles an hour, but many times much faster at 15 or 18 or even 20? Suddenly a car, either the front door driver or the rear driver's side passenger throws their car door open. And, that can happen in less than a second, and it can extend 3 or 4 feet into the path of a cyclist who's going along to the left side of a parked vehicle. And the consequences can be horrendous. It is so dangerous, in fact, that Florida has a statute making it illegal for someone to open a car door into the path of a cyclist. And that's actually the way it should be. The sad part for us is that drivers, frankly, are unaware of the danger involved in dooring. They're not thinking of cyclists, particularly when they're parked, when they stop their car. They're not thinking of cyclists. They may be reminded, if they're next to a bicycle lane, but the sad thing is many of them are not. They've arrived at their destination, they've got somewhere to go, they're looking about them to collect their gear, and they throw the door open, and that's typically all they know. This commonly occurs in the situation where the car is parked parallel with the direction of traffic, and there may be a bike lane next to the driver's door. And more commonly, there might be a share lane where the lane is being shared with vehicle, forcing the bike typically to the right-hand side. Or in those situations where there's no bike lane and no share, the cyclist is simply riding to the right to stay out of the way of vehicles. So this requires some defensive positioning by the cyclist in order to stay safe when you have parallel cars parked to their right. You have to remain at least a door's width off those parked cars to stay out of range. I always tell people you need to be scanning ahead to determine if you see a car parked on the right, is there someone in the driver's seat? Is there someone in the passenger seat behind the driver? Those are people that have the tendency to throw a door open. You need to make sure you've moved out of the door zone as you pass that person. Many times cars are not going to understand. They're going to, blow their horn at you or what have you when you're riding 5 feet or so off the driver's door of a car, of a line of parked vehicles, and I think my position is you take the position on the road that's safest for you to avoid being doored by a driver, being doored by a car. You take the position safest to you, which is out of the door zone. I've also seen cases in some of our cities where they have parking in basically the center of a line of traffic, and to the right is the bike lane. We have these in some of the counties in Sarasota. To the right of the bike lane is the bike lane, and we've had situations where a passenger opened the door of the car into the bike lane to the right between them and the sidewalk, causing a dooring incident. So you have to be ultra careful as a rider on a bicycle. In the situations where you are on the right side of the car, you typically have a much narrower window within which to ride because there may not be a lane to your right. You may just be restricted to the bike lane, and right beside that may be the curb. So you have to be very careful. I think the prudent thing to do when you get into a situation where there's multiple cars parked in a straight line and there's a bike lane to the right, then you need to slow down, because you just don't know if someone's going to sit in that car and throw the door open. Could be a child, it could be anyone. Dooring injuries are very significant. It's almost impossible to avoid a dooring injury without having some type of a fracture or a spinal injury, just because of the mechanics involved in these crashes. You definitely want to be working with a lawyer who understands these mechanics of the crash and the mechanics of the injury that has occurred. I think that This is just a situation for drivers to be hyper aware before they get out of their car, to look before they open the door. They don't want to change someone's life or be responsible for that happening. But frankly, if they do, they have to be held responsible for the consequences of what happens when they pull that door open into the path of a cyclist. So if you've been injured in a dooring incident with a driver or a passenger, make sure that you get with a lawyer, that you hire a lawyer who understands the mechanics of dooring, understands where the legal responsibility lies, and how to help you get the best result physically in your recovery and financially in holding the driver or passenger responsible. I'm Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. I look forward to talking to you.